Tim, I am so excited to talk to you today. Thank you and welcome to Gaze Ahead.
It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So, first and foremost, I want to hear your story. You are a speaker, you're a coach, you're a podcaster, you're a consultant, all in the wellness space targeted towards organizations and leaders. I'd love to hear how you got here and what was the journey to get you into this role that you're playing today.
Wow, it's a long journey. I'm old now, and so I still feel like I'm 18 or 19, and so that's a good thing, I guess. But yeah, it's been a lot of years in the making to get where we are now. I would say it all started. I started in the fitness industry, and most at the time, many years ago, most of your clients were corporate executives, people that could afford to pay for that service. And I realized that they all were struggling with the same things. They were overworked, stressed out, not managing their mental or physical health, and they would come to the gym and expect their body to perform well. And so, in order to do my job in the gym and help them get more fit and lose weight or do whatever they need, what their goals were, I realized quite quickly that what I did in the gym really didn't matter as much if I didn't change what happened outside of the gym. And I call that the other 165 hours in their week, because the average client saw me about 3 hours a week. So that means there are 165 other hours that are way more important to the results than the 3 they spend with me. And that's the point when I really got that. It's the point I went from being a trainer to being a coach, because I made it my goal to use those 3 hours to transform the other 165 rather than just using those 3 to kick someone's butt in the gym. And as I started to do that, what I realized was that not only were people getting their goals in the gym, they're getting fit and losing weight, they were also saying, "Oh, my relationship with my wife has improved. My team's performing better at work. I'm getting promoted. Our company's stock value is increased." And because they were showing up differently, the tools that we were able to put in place for them, the strategies, were elevating every area of their life, because now they were thinking more clearly, they had more energy, they were more focused on what was important. And it wasn't just the 3 hours they were coming to the gym. Those strategies that we put in place were habits throughout the day that they incorporated, whether they were 10 seconds at a time or 1 minute at a time, or little micro breaks with their team. All these things were like a catalyst for the performance in every area of their life. And so that was really powerful to see with my individual clients. And then they would start to say, "Hey, can you come in and talk to my team about this? It would really be beneficial for them." So I started consulting with teams, and they're like, "Hey, we're building a gym at the office. Can you come and help us uh, design that gym and put equipment in?" And then that's where the speaking and consulting came from. And we do fitness center management in one of the divisions of our company. I guess where it really went to the corporate side, from a bigger picture perspective, is that for a couple of decades we've been managing corporate fitness centers, and we'd see the same people all the time.
Mhm.
Same 5 to 10% of the employee base that would have a gym. If you had a bare concrete room with a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling, they would still use it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would start to say, "Hey, what about the other 90% of your employee base that would benefit from this more? Why aren't they using it?" And when I started looking into corporate culture and organizational structure and communication flow through the organization, the mindset of leadership, I realized that all these things that people put in place in companies, the check boxes, I call them, benefits plans and fitness centers and health spending accounts, and all these things are great. They're great tools in the toolbox, but they're useless if the mindset and habits of leadership are not actively supporting those on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
And that's really where we are now, is the organizational performance consulting, I call it, and working with C-suite leaders to identify what they currently have, but also to say, hey, you might have all the check boxes ticked. What's the bottom line impact on the organization? What do the stats show? Because every stat out there right now shows people are more stressed, more burnt out than ever. People are disengaged, they're overworked, and yet every single company, especially since COVID, has increased their benefits. They've got extra mental health coverage. They're doing DEI seminars and workshops.
Mhm.
There's a missing link in all of this information that's out there. There's that, I guess the information is not the issue. It's the traction on that information and how it's being implemented. And that comes flat on the square on the shoulders of leadership.
Mm. So what I'm hearing is implementing all the check boxes, like, okay, get the right health spending, put a gym in your office, doing all the things that on paper should get you a better, healthier corporate culture is not enough. And what you said, what it really falls on the shoulders of leadership. So what does that mean? Let's unpack that. Does that mean you should see the CEO acting or, promoting? Like, what does that actually mean for leadership? Is it the walk thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's also the mindset around it. A lot of senior leaders abdicate responsibility for well-being. They misunderstand the difference between wellness and well-being.
Mm.
And wellness is, I call it the tactics, the check boxes. You have financial wellness, psychological wellness, social wellness, organizational, environmental wellness, all these different, I think there are 8 or 9 different components of wellness. Some of them are important to some companies, some aren't. That's so fine. It's up to the culture and values of the organization to decide what they want to focus on. But wellness is the tools. Well-being is the outcome of properly using those tools. So well-being is a feeling that employees have of, I'm living my best life. I've got great energy. I'm happy with where I am. So we use wellness tools in the most effective way possible to increase and produce well-being in employees. And that ultimately results in performance for the organization. Where the disconnect is companies have all the wellness tools. That's table stakes now. Just to get in the game, isn't any progressive company is going to have a good benefits plan and they're going to have resources for employees. Awesome, great. Where the disconnect comes in the traction of using that. Those tools right now are not producing the results. You've bought this Ferrari and it's looking amazing. It's sitting in the garage. Every once in a while, once a month, when you do it's mental health month, we're going to start it up and sit in there and listen to the stereo for a while. We'll rev the engine a little bit, but we never actually take it out and drive it. We never actually let it perform. And that's even Fortune 10 companies. They've got all these great tools, yet the people are still stressed and burnt out.
So leaders need to measure the use of the tools, but also it sounds like the well-being of the employees somehow. How would they even know? I guess productivity is one outcome, but how do you gauge that? How do you go from creating a set of tools to making it part of the fabric of the organization in your mind?
That is squarely on a mindset shift in senior leadership. I mentioned and I didn't say it lightly, abdicating responsibility,
Mm.
um, you know, for that well-being. I've yet to meet a company that has, at the C level, a KPI or metric that is financially compensated around the well-being of employees.
Mm-hmm. We look at other metrics like attrition,
Yeah.
right? We don't look at well-being, because well-being, you defined it as a feeling, and it's in our business minds and our mathematical minds, in our data-driven world. It's hard to measure well-being, isn't it?
It is. It shows up in a lot of other metrics that we have. Again, turnover rates, retention, employee satisfaction surveys, all those different things. And companies have these things in place, but a lot of times organizations think of them as, well, a certain number is acceptable. And we're almost looking at it, and I use the medical model a little bit. Just because someone isn't sick doesn't mean they're well.
Mm-hmm.
They might be existing. They're not languishing, but they're not thriving. They're just there. They show up for work each day, and technically everything's going okay. But what are the top 10, 15% of employees doing, those thriving A-type players that are just knocking it out of the park? What are they doing differently? How are they showing up? And more importantly, how are leaders facilitating that? Some people are just going to thrive because that's their nature. They've got it dialed in. But there's a huge opportunity for leadership to really look at their role differently. And at the basic level, leaders aren't doing the work. They're facilitating the work to happen in other people. And they're essentially a performance coach. And when leaders start looking at their role from a performance coach standpoint, and the CEO is basically the chief performance coach, they're having to improve the performance of their team so that their team can improve the performance of the next level in the organization. And that's what it comes down to. I come at it from the sports background, and I often make the joke that if executives were athletes, they wouldn't make the team because they're stressed out, burnt out. They're not playing as team players. All the internal politics and things that happen in the company are just decimating performance in the team. When we are working together as a unit, we're taking care of each other, ourselves, it elevates the performance of everyone in the organization.
Do you think that society has played a part in creating the monsters of leadership out there? We have lots of great leaders in this city, especially a really entrepreneurial, forward-thinking, creative city around business and new industries, etc. But there is this undercurrent of workaholism that is expected of high-performing people in leadership positions. And I personally struggle with workaholism, just the idea that I wake up in the morning and I have so much to do. What tips do you have for high-performing people, to your point, who wouldn't make the team? What tangible items, can you help these leaders, especially in startups and other high-performing, high velocity environments, do better or create, change the fabric of their beings to perform better? What tips do you have?
Going back to the athlete analogy, it's so appropriate. The athletes are high performers. The top athletes, you look at what they go through and what they do to perform at the level that they do, it's not rocket science, but it's fantastic. They have a team of people around them helping support them. They have multiple different types of coaches. They have athletic therapists, massage therapists, technique coaches, mindset coaches. They also get their sleep, they get their nutrition, they take care of their body, and that allows them to perform at high levels day after day after day. From the corporate mindset, a lot of high performers, they think of themselves as Usain Bolt, and they're like, I'm going to sprint, but they try and sprint for a marathon. And that doesn't work. Like, you can sprint super fast, but then you need to take that recovery time and regenerate, refresh your brain, refresh your body, and then sprint again. And that's where shifting your mindset and perspective around it is important. You can burn the candle at both ends for a little while. And, if there's a major project or a deadline and you need to double down, absolutely go for it. You can, stay up late and get it done, but knowing that there's a cost to that. You can do it once, you can do it twice in short succession, and you'll probably produce great results. But if you try and do that for a year, 2 years, a decade, in the end, it doesn't produce the results you want. That's where we see, I do a lot of work in the legal field. The 80, 90, 100-hour work weeks. That's when you get people in their 40s having heart attacks and burned out, and they've destroyed their marriage. They have poor relationships. Their body's broken down, and they're literally in their 40s or early 50s, and they might have a crap ton of money in the bank, but their body and their life are broken down. Yet there are other people that are able to work smarter and still hard and produce fantastic results, but they're doing it from a mindset of a marathon of sprints: sprint, recover, sprint, recover, sprint, recover, and strategically focusing on what they're focusing on. And as entrepreneurs and especially startups, you're extremely passionate about what you're doing, and you're driven to make it happen regardless of what's going on. That's essential to startup success. So is being able to see the bigger picture of how you fit into that, and knowing what is important to you, your goals, your vision for personally as well as professionally, and find the unique blend.
You talked about a mindset shift, and then you talked about reset. And so those two things together, for me, it means a mindset shift around time, because time off or time recharging has to be viewed in your mind as productive. And that's hard for a high-performing workaholic startup entrepreneur type and a team that they're leading, right? Where you have crazy deadlines, you're in a race to beat other competitors that are trying to do a similar thing as you. And so how do we help people look at recovery as productive? Like, how do we even start? I guess it would be data-driven. You'd have to show them the data.
Yeah. I often use the analogy of forget which Star Wars episode it is, whereas one of the Obi-Wan is fighting the Jedi, or sorry, fighting the Sith, and there's like this barrier between them, and they have to wait for it to open up, and the Sith is just like pacing and like this, ready to fight, and Obi-Wan sits down or kneels down and starts to meditate and bring the Force in. And it's like, you can be in the midst of chaos. Can you center yourself, bring yourself into calmness so you can think clearly, and you can pool your energy in order to produce more in that moment? And that's everything from 1 minute like mindfulness breaks before you go into a big meeting. If you're about to pitch your deck to investors, if you're stressed out and flustered before you go in, literally taking 15, 20, 30 seconds to breathe, bring your heart rate down, focus on the one key point you want to make first, something like that. There are unlimited number of strategies in how to apply this, but it comes down to, are you in control of your performance? And do you know exactly what for you need to do to perform at your best? And top athletes, top performers know that intuitively, and they've practiced it over and over and over again.
It's such a great analogy. The athlete to corporate leader or corporate go-getter, the idea that you have knowledge of not just your body and how you perform with your body and mind, but your spirit, your recovery time, your nutrition, your sleep. Because you're looking at your body to perform, you're almost taking care of it more. But in the corporate world, it's really mostly in the higher leadership positions, it's your mind that needs to perform. And so we just don't think that it needs as much time to recover or as much nutrition or as much sleep. But in fact, of course it does. Of course it does. It's a part of your body. Interesting. So let's talk about wellness programs at work. If there's a CEO out there or somebody out there listening to this and says, wow, like I really want to get the most out of my employees, and I've checked my boxes, but I don't have a good wellness program at work. Like what is a like a solid program look like? Is it a big investment by these companies? Like what does it look like to have a solid program? And conversely, what have you seen fail in the past or fall short?
Lots of factors to that question. First, I've met very few senior leaders that say we don't have a good wellness program. Almost all of them say, oh, we've got a great wellness program. And when I dig a bit deeper and say, oh, great, what return on investment are you getting from that? What stats has it improved? How is turnover decreased? How has employee satisfaction gone up? How has it improved your market positioning? How are you attracting new people to the organization from that? Very few companies can put hard numbers on that. And when I ask them what they mean by a great wellness program, they list all the check boxes. Oh, we increased our mental health cover. We have a great benefits plan. We increased our mental health coverage. Some are like, we offer unlimited psychological consults. We did this. We offer a DEI session. We have work groups, organizational support groups throughout the company. Awesome. Great. Those are great tools in the toolbox. How are you using those tools? How are they making an impact? That's, again, the missing piece. And so what does a great program look like? One that's being implemented. And does it need to cost a lot? No. In fact, wellness is free. Like, the wellness is, again, the tools, and well-being is the outcome. So as a leader, especially in a small organization, you have so much more impact on the people around you, your team. So your actions and leaders, if you're truly making people feel like they belong, they're included, they're supported, they're recognized, that's all free. You don't need anything. You don't even need a benefits plan. Now, it's nice to have one. People want medical and dental and all those, be able to go get a massage and things like that. That's, again, table stakes. But as a leader, you can maximize the investment you're making in those wellness check boxes by supporting it, by actively utilizing yourself, demonstrating the actions on a day-to-day basis, helping people literally on a moment to moment basis throughout the day, leading by example.
Mhm.
And it, depending on your culture, depending on what's happening within the organization, it could be as simple as like hey, well, before we start this meeting, let's everyone close their eyes and take 5 deep breaths to focus on what we need to focus on this meeting. And like such a small, simple example, yet most companies don't do things like that.
Mhm.
Everything from, instead of 30-minute or hour-long meetings, having 25-minute and 50-minute meetings, so people can take 5 or 10 minutes before their next meeting to be mindful and to actively, as a leader, say, you know what, we're doing this and we're providing the 5 minutes, not so you can send more emails and check more emails, but so you can go stand outside and let the sun hit your face, to go for a walk around the block so you're refreshed and energized, and then you come back to your next meeting and you're going to be more refreshed and focused, so you'll get more done. Again, those don't cost anything.
Mhm.
A
Mhm.
lot of organizations are already investing this money, and they're not getting a return on that investment, partly because of what I call and we like to say at our company, we're the glue that holds things together. Because you've done a stress management seminar, great, you pay to have a speaker come in, and they knock it out of the park. It's awesome. They motivate people, they inspire people, great information. And then people walk out of that session, they go back to their desk, and 90% of it is gone within a few days. They forgot about it. There's no follow-up in the organization.
Mhm.
So if you're investing to bring that person in, invest a little bit more to provide continuous touch points from a learning and development standpoint. If it's important enough to provide the information, it's got to be important enough to make sure that it's integrated and learned in the organization. A great
Mhm.
example of that again doesn't cost anything extra, is when people go to a conference, what's the learning outcome from it? Do they have to present that information to their team? Even just that, sharing it with their team, what they learned, what were the key takeaways, how it's going to impact the business. Simple, free to do, and totally increases the transfer of information, but also cements it in that person's mind that did attend.
Yeah.
Continuing some follow-ups after that will amplify the results of that.
Yeah. So not treating it like a one and done.
Yeah.
Okay, we did our DEI sesh, done for that until next year. Or we had this great speaker, Tim came in and spoke and inspired a whole organization. We're good now for 6 months. But actually, following up, bringing it back, creating rhythms around it, and pulse checks around it, and yeah, which does take effort and organization and dedication. But you're right, it's free, other than the time that it takes, or the mindset shift that it takes.
When you spoke to right there, the mindset shift, because by looking at it as a program and an implementation strategy, that's a mindset shift in itself. Whereas when leaders are saying, yeah, okay, we know we got to do DEI. Yeah, we know we need to do stress management. We're going to do a mental health thing. We're going to offer this mental health app. Great. Okay, done. Let's get back to real work. That's a mindset. And that speaks volumes to employees, because when people know, like, employees aren't stupid. They understand that when they see multiple times, we got to take time out of our busy day to do this session, and it's a one and done, their brain's already dismissing it. It might be entertaining in the moment.
Mm.
And if it's just entertainment, throw on like a session or an episode of The Office for an hour and save yourself some money. But if it's actually important enough, implement it over the long term.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your earlier point, measure the metrics, look at results, do a little bit of homework with respect to what happened when we implemented this properly, and what does it do to our retention? What is our return on investment? That kind of thing. Yeah. It's a fabric change and it's a mindset change. And to the leaders out there that really care about it, they'll take the time and effort to walk the talk and implement this. It's just, I totally see how people can get busy, head down. Productivity doesn't come in the same category as wellness. And I even struggle with that in my personal life, just, jumping right into work rather than taking a moment to reset or to move my body or what have you. So yeah. What about people? Like, I have a question for you. It's a loaded question. It's, can you really have it all? And when I say that, there's a lot of archetypes that we have in our lives: dad or mom or auntie plus worker or leader plus yogi, or, there's all these archetypes, for people. And can you really have it all? Can you really have the wellness that you want and the career that you want and the relationships that you want? You alluded to this at the beginning. Can you touch on what you've seen in the client base that you've worked with?
It's definitely a loaded question, and there are nuances to that. The short answer is yes. It's a bit more complicated in the sense of what everything means. And I always approach it from the 80-20 rule, Pareto principle, right? If we want to be world class at everything, I would say no. Can I be a world class marathon runner and a world class Olympic weightlifter and a world class business person? Probably not. But can I be world class in one or two areas and pretty damn good in other areas? Yeah, absolutely. Because what do they say? It can be like a year of focused work to be an expert in a field or something like that. But it could be a decade to be world class in that field or more. And so if you want to be healthy, fit, psychologically, mentally grounded, be a great parent, be a great partner for your spouse, absolutely. Because there are 10 or 20% of things that if you do well, you're going to be really damn good in those areas. And that's what I think people forget, is that it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be this thing that consumes all of your time or energy. You just have to focus on the right things. And you can be really good in lots of areas. And then you choose where you want to really elevate it, where you want to put that extra 80% of effort to get 20% better.
That is really resonating with me. So this idea that it all comes back to time, right? It all comes back to time and your pie of time, how big is your pie piece for work versus home versus wellness and exercise, and at certain parts of your life, your work pie maybe is where you spend the 80-20, right? At certain other times of your life, maybe it's different. So that pie, or that, we'll call it time management allocation, changes different seasons of your life. And yeah, so I like that answer. You can have it all, but you can't be world class at every damn thing.
Yeah. And we're a lot of, and I've fallen into this as well, like as a business owner and dad. I've got 2 teenage kids now. And when they were really young, I fell into this habit. I was trying to grow my business, and I let everything blend into itself, and it made everything crappy.
Mm.
I would be so focused on work, and I'd come home and I wouldn't transition. I wouldn't, like, even if I got home late and it was like 30 minutes, I had to get home, say hi to my wife and tuck the kids in. And then maybe I was going to work after. I still had work on my mind in that 30 minutes, instead of being able to shift and focus and spend the best 30 minutes, really connect with my wife, spend some great time with my kids in that, tuck them in, and really be present. If that's what the 20% is, just being able to be focused and present, when you have a one-on-one with your employee and your brain's somewhere else,
Yeah.
they don't benefit, you don't benefit. Being able to focus, and that's when we talk about mindfulness, or people talk about meditation, I'm like, forget the frou-frou shit. I'm like, pardon my French. I approach it from an athlete standpoint, from a performance standpoint. It is about being able to focus on whatever you have in the moment in front of you. And it is so powerful when you can do that. And it's something I work on every day, to try and be present in that, whether it's your kids, your board meeting, your team member, your wife, your
Mhm.
mental health in the moment. If you're taking a 1-minute meditation break, focus on you for that moment. It's not selfish, it's performance enhancing.
Absolutely. And draw those boundaries, make sure they're not fuzzy. Be in that moment. Like you said, it's also giving the other person the dignity of respect, and that they're worth those moments that you've scheduled for them. Similarly to yourself, giving yourself the dignity and respect that you deserve to have that 1 minute, as short as you said, 15 seconds, to give yourself that time without the fuzzy boundaries and allowing the distractions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true, and it takes practice, just like
It's
an
a,
athlete,
it's a
right?
skill.
It's a skill. It's a
Yeah.
skill. Well, it sounds like you have a gem of advice, and that you work with both individuals, corporations. Where can people find you, Tim? Like, where can people look you up if they need to get a hold of you?
Uh, timborys.com or freshgroup.ca is my company website, with all the different links to various business units that we have, and
Awesome.
LinkedIn as well. Search up Tim Borys. There's apparently another Tim Borys in the UK who's an actor or writer. It's not me, but
Okay, we'll
I'm in
make sure
Canada.
we put those links in the show notes so people can find you in the show notes as well. We'll get the correct Tim Borys down there. Thank you so much. I have learned a lot. I think this is a really powerful way to look at workplace, to work at performance. And thank you for doing the work that you do. We need it in our society.
It's been my pleasure, and thank you so much